Oh, sweet. Talk about the devil. What do you want to use, Adam? Try to use Tuple. Oh, a new version's available. Install and relaunch. Yeah, let's try this out. I want to share this one. Can you folks hear that?
Hey there.
Wow, that is pretty magical.
Yeah, it's pretty good. Do you have this set up so that like people on YouTube can hear me talking too?
Yeah, I got my system audio going. So you're
Very
live
cool.
right now. And you can see my window here?
Perfect. Yep, I can see VS Code and your browser in the background there, so I think we're probably good.
Are you a Visual Studio Code person?
I use Sublime 99% of the time, but I've been playing around with Code more because it's got some cool features that make, especially with Tailwind, that make it a little bit nicer to use, but
Yeah.
I'm not totally used to it yet, so.
Well, I mean, you're talking to the guy that is still addicted to Dreamweaver, so
Do you have like that Tailwind VS Code extension installed?
Yeah, that's what I was like trying to see what I got installed here. I got, where is it?
All sorts of goodies.
Oh yeah, I got too much probably. Tailwind CSS
there you
IntelliSense. Yeah.
Pretty neat.
Yeah, I didn't quite understand it at first, and then all of a sudden I realized, oh, it's popping up like, yeah, this thing here.
Yeah, it like shows you what everything means, and like the colors, when you type them, it shows like a little square with like a preview of each color, and
yeah, for
all that
someone learning it, it's really helpful.
Yeah.
And even
pretty cool.
I think even that stuff, when I extended it, like if I use Tran yellow, it shows like the yellow in there too. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, man.
All right,
Pretty
so
cool.
how do we?
Make
The
it
question
work.
I asked you before was, I just grabbed, this is one of those components that I stole from Steve, and so I figured, I'll bet you to put. I think what I want is these things to be in a hamburger menu, I'm guessing.
Yeah, so basically like everything that's down below there, we just want to like collapse that when you press that button.
Yeah.
Or just
Although,
have it start collapsed and click that to open it.
yeah. And so are we going to need to use some JavaScript for that?
We'll have to use some JavaScript for it for sure. So.
Oh man.
So first question is, with this site setup with Statamic, how is there any like JavaScript stuff already at all that you're using? Like, is there like a thing that compiles your site's JavaScript file or anything like that? Like, I know you're using. What are you using to compile Tailwind? Is it Laravel Mix?
To compile Tailwind, I'm using Yarn or something, right? This thing here?
Yeah, but what do you run yarn run watch, and if you open like your sidebar where all your files are,
Yeah.
So where do you got like your Tailwind config file?
Right down here.
And then you got that webpack.mix.js file. So scroll up in this file a little bit. I kind of want to see. Okay, so see how you've got that jsbase.js thing? Kind of this stuff here.
Oh man, that drawing thing is so much better. If anybody that's ever helped me on one of these live streams is screaming right now, I can just tell they're putting on their best polite British person act, you know, like, oh, just go a bit, yeah, okay, and then later they're like, God, that. Anyway, so yes,
Yeah.
base.js.
So let's check out that file. I kind of want to see what's going on there right
Oh,
now.
and is this the same thing? Like, this is the one we edit, and then this is the compiled one?
I believe so, yeah. So I kind of want to see if there's anything in there, like if that's even being used. So it's just empty right now. Now, what did it say the file it was compiling? This is the file that it creates, this mytheme.js?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So pull up your webpack.mix.js file again.
Oh, yeah,
Quickest
sorry.
way to do this, by the way, I don't know if you've done this yet, but if you just do like Command P,
Yeah, sorry.
best way to find this stuff. Okay, so where's kind of like your main template where you're like referencing this file, because I kind of want to make sure that the JavaScript file is being pulled in there too as a first step.
It's in default.
Some sort of layout or something, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so it is down here. It looks like this is being pulled in. So if we were to go to base.js,
yeah,
and just write like console.log, and then in parentheses, just put a string in quotes like hello. Yeah, some sort of test string. And now if you save that,
wait, is that JavaScript I just wrote?
You just wrote JavaScript. So
you want to see the one I write all the time, but I never know what I'm writing? This is the one I write. That's
the console when you want to edit stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, that's my secret. Okay, so save that.
Okay, so head back to your pricing page here and open up the Dev Tools, and then just make sure you're on the console tab, and then just do a refresh of the page and see if that string shows up. Perfect. So the JavaScript is running. So we have like a good base for having somewhere to put some JavaScript stuff.
Sweet.
So I think a cool way to do this that would be kind of fun would be to use Vue, because that's how I would do it. I think it's the easiest way, honestly.
This is like, did you see this last project I wrote? This one here. And have you met Sam Podlegar yet?
I have seen him around. I know who he is. Yeah,
he's like one of the young. You know, there's a bunch of young bucks, just young bloods running around. You know. Anyway, he's like, well, you should have just done this all in Vue. And I said, okay.
It would have been. I mean, for me, like the threshold of when something becomes like worth doing in Vue is very, very low. Mm-hmm. So let's just start with it. It'll be more fun. And honestly, I think you'll be surprised at how intuitive it is. Like, I think you'll feel pretty empowered when you see how straightforward it actually is.
That's exactly what Sam said. He said, no, it's not a big deal, man. It's cleaner.
Yeah, you'll be like, holy shit, okay. This is awesome.
All right, so how do we get this?
So a little bit of boilerplate that we're going to have to do. Not the end of the world, though. So first thing, pull up your terminal and kill this watcher for a second.
You want me to kill this?
Yeah, it's just like Control-C. And then what directory are you in right now? You're in the theme directory.
Yeah.
So this is where your node modules and stuff is, right? Yeah. So just do like a yarn add Vue. Pretty sure it's just called Vue. Yep. And this will get Vue like installed.
Nice. Oh, that was pretty quick.
And then in base.js.
Doesn't this shit just give you anxiety all the time? Warning, success.
You just become like
success.
You just become numb to it with all the NPM stuff.
I don't understand. The programming is filled with OCD folks, and you've got all these things that would drive OCD people crazy.
It's just NPM, man. You just eventually I mean, everyone complains about it, but you just have no choice. It always looks like it failed, but it worked. That's basically. Yeah, when it fails, it like really fails, but when it works, it just sort of fails.
It just kind of works. All right. So we got to go.
So let's go into our base.js file here for a second.
Okay.
I'm just gonna pull up the Vue docs because it's kind of ironically, I never type a lot of this stuff from scratch. I usually am in a project where a lot of it's already just like set up. So I just want to take a little peek and make sure that. Yeah, okay, things make sense. So head back to your base.js file, delete this line, and type const, so const space Vue, and do it with a capital V, kind of that's the convention for this type of stuff, and then equals, then type require. And then in parentheses, just type Vue as a string. In quotes, yeah. So what this is saying, like import Vue from your NPM dependencies, so we kind of can do something with it.
Okay.
So where's your kind of go to your nav.html file. And go to the very top of this file. This is just like the nav HTML snippet.
Yeah. I basically just copied and pasted
on
what
this
Steve
nav
had.
element here. Yeah, sweet. So just throw an ID of like nav on here. And then in our base.js file.
So this, when you put ID, I just need to get something. I know this is a dumb question.
Yeah.
This is not a CSS-based ID. This is something else?
It's the same thing. So it's just an HTML ID, right? So CSS can target an ID and you can add styles to it. And JavaScript can find the element with that ID and do stuff with it too.
I'm glad I asked that dumb question because that just always messes me up. I'm always like, what? I thought this had to do with CSS. Like it was like, you've got classes and you've got IDs and then...
Yeah. And even classes don't have anything to do with... I mean, they do have something to do with CSS, but JavaScript can use them just the same. Like any sort of like attributes that you put on an element, you can query for that element based on that attribute. So you could say like in JavaScript, find me all the links that have an href that starts with /, or find me all the SVGs that have a height of 144. You know what I mean? Like
yeah.
you can find things based on any of these pieces of information.
Okay.
ID is kind of the canonical way when you just have like one instance of something.
Yeah.
To just have like a really straightforward way of just grabbing that element directly.
Well, and this would always mess me up with forms because forms have IDs.
Yeah, for like labels and inputs and stuff.
Yeah, but I always thought I was like always wondering like why are we what? Because then we would like reference those later. But okay, that makes sense. Okay, so we've got an ID now.
All right, so we're going to use this ID to basically tell Vue what part of the page we want Vue to be able to like work with.
Yeah.
So if you go back to your base.js file.
So to get Vue running on here, all we did was we installed
it. Yeah, we installed it on the command line. Now we're just kind of importing it in our JavaScript so we can do something with it. And now we're just going to use this kind of variable that we've created to wire it up with that ID and be able to do some stuff.
And what's this part?
So that's just matches the name that we typed on the command line. So when we said yarn add Vue, we added the Vue library to our project, and now here we're referencing that same name to grab the code from that library so we can actually
that makes so much sense. Okay, so this is like the variable name right here, and then this part here is like require this library.
Exactly. Yep.
And we can even see it right here. My theme node modules. Okay.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Okay. So now create a new line.
Okay.
In here, and type a new space Vue. Open parentheses. Open curly bracket.
Open curly bracket. Holy.
And hit enter. And here's where we're sort of going to pass in our configuration information for Vue.
Okay.
So to start, we just want to say type EL :space, and then in a string, just type like #nav or #nav or whatever. So this is the ID that we want Vue to grab a hold of, basically, right? So this matches what we typed.
YEL.
So that's the element that we want Vue to work with.
Oh, I see. Okay. So when you say element, it's this right here.
This nav element and then all of its children because.
Okay. So
we're just grabbing this whole tag.
Gotcha. Okay.
And that's where we're kind of activating Vue. So now type comma space or comma enter. Sorry. We'll add another key here, and we'll do this just for testing. Type mounted, and then open parentheses, and then move your cursor after the parentheses, space, curly bracket, enter. Then here type console.log, and then in parentheses type this dot, no string this time, this dot $, EL. So what this is going to do is it's going to instantiate Vue, bind it to our nav element, and mounted, this is like what's called a lifecycle hook in Vue. So there's different stages when Vue is sort of like booting up that you can sort of hook into and run some of your own code. So this is kind of the last one. So this is kind of saying when Vue is done, everything's all set up, it's been mounted and everything's working, run this piece of code. So we're just going to log the element that Vue is bound to, just to sort of test if things look like they're wired up correctly. So if we have our watcher going on the command line, do we still have that going?
In the command line,
yeah, so do yarn run watch or whatever. So now we should be able to refresh the page.
So before this was just watching Tailwind stuff? Oh, I see, just loaded Vue now too. Okay.
Yeah, it'll watch everything, but usually when you install like a new library, a lot of the time you have to restart it, so it picks that up.
Yeah, so my theme, okay.
So go ahead and refresh the page, and in the console, we're hoping to see like an HTML element. Yeah, see, so here's that nav element that we bound it to.
Okay.
So we know that Vue is kind of attached correctly and everything's working.
So we just did that to test it out. We're like, okay, let's test this thing.
Yeah.
Gotcha, okay.
So we don't really need this chunk of code anymore since we just kind of use that for testing. So you can delete those 3 lines.
Okay.
And now what we'll do instead is add a key, just like we did with mounted, called methods. And do an open curly bracket here. And in here is where you kind of put a list of all your functions that you want to be able to trigger by people doing things like clicking in the template and stuff.
Okay.
So here, if we make a just make like a function called handle click. So just type handle click.
Handle dot click or handle?
Nah, I mean it can be called anything we want. So yeah, that's totally fine. And then do 2 parentheses, like open parentheses, close parentheses. And then curly brackets.
Can you explain why does it use this convention? Because like over here we said require, and then here's a string, but I see this all the time in JavaScript. Why even bother having this?
So here we're calling a function, and this is an argument that we're passing to the function. Here we're defining a function that you can call from other places, and what you normally put in here is a list of the arguments that it could accept. Okay. So in our case, it's not going to receive any arguments, so we don't need to put anything in there, but you do still need to just have an empty brackets there, just so JavaScript knows that it's a function and not something else.
Gotcha. So we're creating a space for something to happen, but we're not saying anything. Yeah.
Yeah. So, if I think of a good example, then I can get into it more. But for now, just do like an open parentheses after this.
Another one like this?
Sorry, curly brackets. And enter. And then in here is basically the code that we're going to want to run whenever we call this handle click function. So for now, let's just do console.log.
Okay.
And then parentheses, and then in quotes, type like clicked or something.
Okay.
And now if you go back to your nav.html file, find that button where the hamburger menu is.
Yeah, where is that? That's a good question. How do you figure out what that is?
Just kind of like, yeah, you can, so it's going to be this button with flex item center on it. So it's this thing here.
Okay.
So with Vue, if we want to be able to run that code that we just wrote anytime someone clicks this button, all you need to do is add a new line like right in between here.
Okay.
doesn't have to be on a new line, but because everything's kind of tight here, it's nice to put it on a new line. So hit tab so that we kind of line up with class, and then do @ click equals, then in bracket, or sorry, in quotes, type handle click. So what we're saying is anytime someone clicks this button, call the handle click function that we wrote.
Cool.
So now if you go to your browser,
okay,
and go to the console, and make sure that the window's small enough that we can see the hamburger. And then if you click it, we should see something show up in the console saying that it was clicked.
Oh,
clicked.
Nice.
So every time you click it, that counter increments, right?
Look at this.
Yeah.
Isn't this a game?
I mean, it could be a game to some people. Sure. But it seems like a pretty boring game. So we need to do something a little bit more sophisticated than just logging some text in the console.
Yeah.
So if you head back to the editor, so head back to our JavaScript file, our base.js file. And what we need to do is we basically need to keep track of whether we want the navigation to be open or closed, right?
Mm-hmm.
And every time we click it, we want to change is open to false if it was already open, and we want to change it to true if it was closed, just to kind of toggle it. So what we should do is add a new key, just like we kind of have methods here.
Okay.
We'll call it data.
Do you want me to add it here?
It's going to be at like the top level, like where these ones are. So I normally put it in between L and methods, but it doesn't really matter what order it goes in.
Okay.
So do data : then open curly bracket.
Okay.
Enter, and throw a comma right here. That's why you're seeing that red squiggly line.
Okay.
And now in here is where we're just going to keep track of like any variables that we want Vue to sort of have access to. So in this case, we can have a variable like is open. So like is then capital O open, and colon, and then type false. So we'll have this default to false. So when someone first loads the page, the menu will be closed.
Yeah.
And then what we can do is on our handle click function here.
So I just
instead of doing, that's good, yeah. That part's done. So now in handle click, get rid of this console log, and instead type this.isOpen. So this is just referring to like the data on the Vue instance.
This dot
so is open.
Is open, yeah.
So we're just like referencing this variable up here.
Yeah.
Then we want to say equals, and then do an exclamation mark. Then this dot is open.
This dot
so what
is open.
So the exclamation mark means not, which kind of like inverts the variable in this case. So basically we're saying whenever someone clicks it, set is open to be the opposite of what it was before. So if is open is false, not false is going to be true. And if it's true, then not true is going to be false. Does that make sense?
Okay, so here we just set it to...
We're setting the starting point for the menu to be...
To false.
To false.
And then here on the click, we say...
Set it to the opposite of whatever it is. Just toggle it. Right?
That's what this here is doing.
Yeah, you can think of this as basically like the long form version of this would be if this dot is open is true, then we want to say this dot is open should be false. Else, if this dot is open equals false, now we want to say this dot is open should be true. So that's kind of the super verbose way of saying the same thing. So if it's true, set it to false. Otherwise, if it's false, set it to true. So this is just like the shortest possible way, essentially, of writing this. And this is how any JavaScript programmer would write this. No one would write it this way.
Yeah, that is helpful seeing all that. Although even that it takes my little tiny brain a little bit to jump around in that. But I get it. Okay.
Cool. So yeah, you can take control back because it's not as, you're not going to learn as much if I just type it for you. Okay, so now head over to our nav.html file. And right now we have this isOpen thing, right? But that's not really controlling if the nav is actually open or not. We have to do something based on that information. So we want to basically take the actual drop-down section and hide that based on if isOpen is true or if it's false, right? Mm-hmm. So what we need to do is find that section, which I kind of think it's probably this div. So why don't we go to the browser and use the inspector and see if we can find what element it is that we actually want to hide.
So, I mean, there's two divs, right? There's this div here.
And that's, yeah, so that's just for this stuff. And then if you go up to...
Yeah, and then there's...
I'm thinking it's...
This one here is... That's this one here, yeah.
Yeah, so just for fun, try in the styles here. Just click in there. Mm-hmm. And type display. And then tab none. Okay, so that's kind of what we want, right?
Yeah.
So we know that if we hide that div, then we kind of get the result that we want.
Yeah.
Okay, so if we go to VS Code, here's that div right here. So just like we kind of had this @click thing, which is kind of special Vue syntax for sort of communicating with Vue, mm-hmm. we can sort of conditionally render this using another special Vue thing called v-show. So just like you have class equals, right here, type v-show equals.
v-show equals.
And then in quotes, type isOpen. So basically we're saying only show this div if isOpen is true.
Okay.
And if we did this right, we actually should we should have enough in place for this to basically be working now.
Really? Okay. Let's refresh the page.
So see how it's closed by default right now, which it wasn't before?
Oh my God.
So if you click it again, done.
It's working. And if I do this, I'll see the actual events in here, or no? No.
You can...
because we're not logging it.
Yeah, we're not logging anything. But there is a Vue DevTools extension that you can install that lets you kind of see more what's going on with Vue specifically if you want.
Sweet.
But that's basically it. So
holy damn.
The only thing I would do differently than what we have is if you go back to the VS Code, instead of calling this handle click, I'd probably call it something like toggle. A little bit more clear what we actually are trying to do. And then you have to make that same renaming change over here. So instead of calling the method handle click, we would just call that toggle as well.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah.
You know what was so simple. Oh, that was so helpful because sometimes I'll see other people's code and I'll see something like this and I won't know what that is. But now that we went through that whole thing, that makes a lot more sense.
Yeah, so it's about as simple as it gets in terms of, yeah, like doing this with regular JavaScript would be a lot more, you'd be a lot more in the weeds trying to make all this stuff work. You wouldn't be able to just say like, on click, toggle this div, you know? Mm-hmm. You'd have a bunch of random document.addEventListener click garbage that's just not as expressive. But yeah, here we're just sort of keeping track of, is it open or is it closed? This is how it changes that, and then we just wire that up in the template to the button that we want to toggle that. So then you're done.
Sweet. Anything else I should know?
Actually, see how everything's hidden right now?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we still have some work to do.
Yeah.
Okay. So things are going to get a little bit more complicated. So on like desktop sizes, we always want to show all of those links.
Yeah.
So we can't simply just say, oh, if the menu's closed, hide it, because then if someone closes it on mobile and expands the screen, now they're gone and they can't bring them back.
Yeah.
And now they're just permanently gone here, right?
Yeah.
So if we go to the code, we kind of have to do a little bit of a tweak to how we have this done. So all of our changes only have to happen in the HTML.
Okay.
So this vShow thing is great if you want to hide it on all screen sizes.
Yeah.
But in our case, we only want to hide it on small screen sizes. So we can't just use Vue to say show or hide this entire div. We're going to basically use Vue to add Tailwind classes based on this instead.
Yeah.
So what I would do is get rid of this vShow thing completely for a second. And in its place, type colon class equals. And here we're going to type some code that basically we're going to use Vue to add classes. So you can have a colon class and a regular class. These are kind of the classes that are always going to be there. And this is when you want to use Vue to only add classes under certain situations.
Colon class invokes Vue.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So let me just kind of look at what we have here and think about it for a second. So basically we're saying, so MD flex is saying use display flex on medium size screens and above. Mm-hmm. And we're saying display block on small screens. So what I would do is, what we actually want to do is we want to toggle between block and hidden based on this is open variable. Mm-hmm. So delete block from here because we don't want it to always be block anymore. We have to make it only be block if it's open.
Yeah.
So then here in these quotes now, type is open space question mark and then space and then in single quotes.
Oh,
so you got to do like single quotes inside the double quotes.
Yeah.
Now type block here. And then after the single quote, throw a space and then a colon. And then another pair of single quotes and type hidden. So this is a little cryptic, but basically what this expression is called like a ternary, which is basically like a compact if statement. So here we're like asking this question. We're asking like, well, is it open? Mm-hmm. And then the thing on the left-hand side of the colon is what to do if this is true. And this is what to do if this is false.
Oh, cool.
So if it's open, then we want it to be display block. Otherwise, if it's not open, then we want it to be hidden. So this MD Flex class is going to override both of these so that on desktop, it's always going to be display flex, which triggers the same property as hidden or block. They all affect the display property.
Yeah.
So even if it's hidden on small screens, it'll still be open on big screens. So if we go and refresh, with any luck, this
By the way, this is so cool to understand what's going on here. I know none of this is a big deal to you, but this is like, to understand what this is so exciting. Is this open? If so, show this. If not, show this.
Exactly.
If I was going to read this, I would be like, if this is open, then have a block and then hide it or something. Like
it's definitely pretty cryptic. Like this, like arbitrary symbol. You know, it's yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So now you
totally
want to refresh this.
But so if you refresh, with any luck, everything's visible again.
Yes.
And now if you shrink it down, and then hit the button, so all that stuff still works.
Nice.
Now leave it open, and then expand it. So everything's there, and if you go back down, it'll sort of remember that it was open before, so it should stay open. If you go shrink down to the mobile view, I mean.
Oh.
Because yeah.
Oh yeah.
So it just kind of remembers wherever it was, right?
Oh, cool. Sweet, man.
So you can even, if you inspect with DevTools. Okay, so. Okay, this div. See how there's like hidden at the end? And now when we click this, it switches to block at the end.
Oh, yeah.
Then hidden, block, hidden. So
nice.
that's the code that we wrote. It's just kind of changing that one class, and then all the classes that are just always there, they just kind of get merged together.
So this is for like people that are using Tailwind. They're going to be using stuff like this all the time, because if you can use Vue to modify CSS like this, that's pretty powerful just in itself. Like, what else? That gives you a lot of runway.
Totally, yeah. You don't need to be able to do a lot of really fancy stuff to be able to get a lot of useful stuff done.
To get the functionality.
You don't need to know much more really than like what we covered here today to be able to be pretty dangerous with Vue and Tailwind for sure.
Yeah. That's crazy that like all we had so many weird
it's like
things.
It's like 12 lines of JavaScript that we wrote.
Yeah. Yeah, like everything is working off of this, and then everything else is just in here.
What we did here, like this 100% fits in a tweet. You know what I mean? Like this is, it's like 60 characters or something.
That is so good.
Yeah,
sweet, man.
Neat.
Cool. I want to end this video right now just so that we have it all buttoned up in one nice little package here. So yeah, I'm gonna end this right now. Jason Harrison says Adam's creating a monster. That's right. That's right. This is now we're dangerous. Remember when I used to say that you used to scare the hell out of me because you were a developer that understood marketing? But just wait till you guys see what the marketing assholes do once they know a little programming. Oh man, it is over. I hope you like pop-ups. I'm gonna create pop-ups like you've never seen.